Alright, we've come to the first public comment. Please state your name and your address. This item is intended to give Guilford and Gilmanton citizens a voice and the GSD an opportunity to hear directly from the citizens. This time is not intended for questions and answers. Questions about programs, practices may be directed to respective administrators during the school day. Would anyone like to speak? Come right up to the podium.
The green light is on, so it's okay. Joe Haas from Gilmanton, Mountain Road. Good evening. I have 3 points that I'd like to bring up. One is, I understand Gilmanton is working on their, what I call COLA, C-O-L-A, cost of living adjustment. They call it a contract with the union. I presume you're doing the same thing. I know that you said no question and answer. I just would like whoever to answer me back by email if they could. I did write to your principal, and hi. And that's on another subject I want to talk about too, but let me get to number 2 of 3 here. Number 2 is, I don't know how many of you know, but I do have a lawsuit going in the Supreme Court. I do have another place over in Bosquen, and I put what I learned in 3 of the 80 information sessions that Tobin and Valinsky had. I presume you know what I'm talking about. John Tobin and Andrew Valinsky have gone around the state, and they've given speeches on that the local school rate is not supposed to be downshifted from the DRA, Department of Revenue Administration. That's expense is supposed to be done at the state level. And in Bosquen, they signed on the amicus curiae, friend of the court brief. And here's another interesting point, is one of the people on that school board down there is suing with Steve Rand of Rand Hardware in Plymouth in Grafton County. So there's that suit, my suit, and what it is, it's the Claremont suit, like part 4. So I'll just give you an update. October 6th is the date that the opposition has until then to give a reply brief. That's SAU 46 down there in Pennacook. And I sued the town of Bosquen too. And then I have 20 days for a reply brief, so that's by October 26th. So, and hopefully I'll go to hearing before the Supreme Court this winter. You know, whether it's this year or early next year. But what I'm getting at is on item number 2 of 3 here, I'll try to be brief, is I would like, right now, these candidates, Democrat and Republican, are running for House reps in my district down there, which is a new one. I only know one of them, Harry Bean. I don't know the other guys. And I guess up here too, that you're in a different district. But I'd like an invitation to go out. I see Bruce here. He knows that I asked this of them at their meeting, but it doesn't go anywhere. So hopefully it'll go somewhere here. Is to try to get them into a forum to say, yes, if and when you are elected, how are you going to fund this? Income tax or sales tax. That seems to be the bottom line. And my solution is not that, but a built-in tax on the cost of goods and services that the businesses use, because if that goes through, the Supreme Court says, yes, finally the House has to do something about it, they got to fund it. And so the 7.6% that's on the business profits tax, just go up in that to equal what they're paying now, because everybody's property tax is going to come down by 3/4. You got to find the money somewhere. Yeah, so that's the end of point number 2. I just thought I'd bring that up. And number 3 is I'm trying to get information on civics, because at the Gilmanton meeting, the principal down there did a good job. I asked for English course materials. Like I got into a discussion with I don't want to go too deep in the county. I was a juror on jury duty, and by the RSA 500-A:15. You're supposed to get paid $10 per each half day. I said, well, that's been on the books since 1956. We don't need a COLA, just pay us off in lawful money. And so what I'm getting at is she sent me the English paperwork on two. You know, a check is an order to pay, a promissory note is a promise to pay, but it's not the payment. It's towards the future tense of the payment actually being made. You know, when you get the money is minted, not printed, all that stuff at the bank. So, you know, when you go to the bank to cash your check, sometimes you get these IOUs, Federal Reserve notes. But like I said, I don't want to go into all the detail now. But I would like, the bottom line is your principal here is giving me the royal runaround, which I don't like. I mean, I do like the emails coming back from you, but, you know, I said, what be the secondary sources? And when I say what be, I should have said, written what are, not what will be, what be at the current tense. You put in there that they may include journal articles, reviews, and academic books. You know, I'm thinking like when I went to school, we learned the Federalist Papers, you know, written by Madison, Hamilton, and Jay. But I gave the example in a previous email, which I don't have on me now, but it did have the debate on in the Constitution. It says to coin money. Like I said, money's minted, not printed. We have a $28 trillion debt, and there's only $28 billion in currency and coin in circulation. How is that ever going to be paid off? It's just, you know, I keep on hearing on TV, oh yeah, we'll just print up some more money. No, you don't print money, you mint money. And it would be nice for the students to learn some of this history of what went on to prevent, you know, the not worth a continental saying in the old days. And I'm trying to get the names of the teachers to teach that. I mean, Gilmerton's a lot better than your website here because it tells you who teach. You know, Zach, what's his name? Babcock. He teaches civics down there, but they list it as social studies. But then I found out it's a subset of that, the civics. I don't know who teaches it up here. I was told last month that the woman's working on it. And then once she worked on it, and then I called her on the phone, she says, well, talk to my principal. And I still haven't got the answer. I mean, it would be nice to have a meeting, you know, down there they had an open house, but it was actually a PTSA meeting, Parent Teacher Student Association, but it said open house. I went there as a citizen, and I was told to get lost. You told me to take a hike, Bruce. You said get back in your car.
Not sure those were the words I used.
Well, and the bottom line is that, you know, you said I'm not invited. But, I mean, it would be nice to somehow get down to the bottom line here, brass tacks, or in coin, gold and silver coin, but get down to brass tacks to the root of the problem. I appreciate it. Thank you. If he could just follow up, I mean, if you could crack the whip on him and get him to answer my question, that'd be nice. Thank you.
I'll try to do that.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I do not give anybody the run around. I want that on the record. When I receive a phone call at 1:30 this afternoon, I do not have probably the time to call before this meeting, but I know that you trust me in getting back and answering every single question. I'm not going to have somebody say that in public, so thank you.
Hi, Skip Murphy, 9 Guilford Glen Road in Guilford. Well, unlike the last meeting, I did go through policy JBAT, and I did have, I'm not looking for a Q&A, but just clarification. I noticed that under purpose, you have a new definition, should not mean shall or must, but is a permissive term. And then under privacy C, names and pronouns, students under this policy should be addressed by their preferred name or pronoun. Is the should under purpose the definition that is applicable under names and pronouns? Should being permissive rather than must or shall. It's not entirely clear.
If I can tell you that we will be discussing that later on in this meeting.
Okay, then I will ignore that for right now. I do want to go back to one other thing. A disconcerting reply by Superintendent Beitler when I had asked about fulfilling SB 263, where it lists all of the protected classes. and at which the last version of SB 263 inserted gender identity. I had asked about the religious protected identity, and I had asked when you folks were planning on creating such a policy. And Superintendent Beitlet said that the NHSBA, in explanation, does not have a policy for religious protected class. And the takeaway that I had was, is the Guilford School Board beholden to the NHSBA exclusively for any of its policies? Because it made it sound to me that you don't do anything without the NHSBA blessing it first. I got the impression also is that it sounded to me that the school board members, who I believe are bright individuals, very well could create that religious policy as has been done for transgender and non-binary. So I am going to ask the question once again, when is the Guilford School Board planning on fulfilling the law, SB 263, now incorporated in the New Hampshire state statutes, to fulfill their lawful obligation for such a protected class? And that's all I have for this public comment session. If that should is applied, by the way, to the pronouns, I want to say thank you very much.
Thank you, Skip. Anyone else for public comment?
Hi, Kristen Marshall, 26 Knollwood Drive in Guilford. I wrote 2 emails last week to the school board, both regarding the Guilford Gifted and Talented program. I received a response from Mr. Beitler, but I think somewhere along the line there was a miscommunication in what I was thinking of as G&T and maybe what you guys were thinking of as G&T. While I do believe that the Edmonds exact path that was spoken about in the email seems like a great learning tool, it's not what I was picturing for a Gifted and Talented program. The PATH program, from what I understand, is available for all students, grades K through 8. And what I envisioned was more specific to, let's say, maybe like the top 20% of the students in the class or in the grade, and maybe we limit it to just 3rd and 4th grade in the elementary school, the older kids, and maybe middle school. I think once kids reach high school level, there are a lot of opportunities available, individualized opportunities, but for this program, I was thinking it could be something where you were accepted into it with test scores, academics, letters of recommendation, etc. Have teachers specifically designed for the program that also share a love of learning. Again, the specifics would have to be worked out, but it could be something where you were taken out of the classroom for an hour or 2 hours a week and given individualized lessons. My fear is that simply by having another computer program to cater to different levels, that it's going to foster a lack of enthusiasm or excitement or a hunger to learn. I think a computer program can't provide that to a student, but a teacher, mentor, and peers can do that. I do understand it's a huge undertaking. I know it's not something we can do overnight, but I did see it was on the agenda, and I think it's warranted for discussion at least. And I just want to say Guilford is an outstanding school district. It's why my family, and I'm sure other families, have moved here. And I'm just trying to be an active part of the community and bring ideas that can make what's already amazing better. I'm a huge advocate of education. I think knowledge is power, and empowering young minds is one of the best things we can do here. So my question to the board and to the to the principals or whoever else is involved in decision making for the curriculum is, how do you feel about this? Is it something we can do in our budget, or is it at least something we can propose to the student body or families of the students to get a read on how they feel about it? And just what's the next step here? I just want to be an advocate for kids that are above grade level or bored or continuously bringing home papers that have 10 out of 10, 100 stars, great job, there's never a correction. So I just want you to know that I'm available and to help in any way that I can, and I hope we can get somewhere with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Any other public comment? With that, I will close public comment. come to the second public comment section. Please state your name and address, just like the first time. If you have any questions, please, about programs or practices, please direct those to the respective administrators. We will have another public comment section during the regular Guilford meeting as well. Does anyone want to speak? Joe?
Joe Haas again from Mountain Road in Gilmanton. I just have 2 points of that I want to talk about right now. One is on the diversity and inclusion, what do you call that, a committee or something? Because the state has a council, and I've been to the council before. They used to have the meetings at the Department of Safety, and that was when Rogers Johnson was around, the black man who was also the representative in the Finance Committee. That's how I knew him in the old days. He's dead now. But he had a meeting up here in Laconia, I think it was, a few years ago, and one of my friends who was a state rep, Mike Brewster, attended that. And I just saw on the TV on Sunday that, I think it was the Channel 9 WMUR report, I forget what they call it, I hardly ever watch it. And they said that well, what I'm getting at is the Human Rights Commission is on the Heights in Concord, and they deal in that diversity and inclusion stuff. And I see that woman also at the meetings that the council has, or commission or something. But it was set up by the Attorney General's office. Actually, the governor put it to only civil rights. And if you go to the Google and you type in like civil rights, civil liberties, the bottom line is the Human Rights Commission does not take civil liberty cases. And I had my friend Mike Brewster put a bill in and try to get them to do that, and it didn't go through the House Judiciary Committee. They voted at ITL. So when the students go up to Plymouth State to talk about this, I think that it would be nice for them to get that background information and maybe go forward with, like I said before, get these state reps here to maybe not just talk on the funding, but also on if they plan to help out to put some of these civil liberties to the test. Because the excuse was that they said on Sunday was they went to the committee and they argued, they meaning the Human Rights Commission, argued for more money because there's not enough investigators and administrators, and the investigator that they have is now an administrator, but there's no investigation, so it's all being clogged, just like the court system was during COVID. And they really need to do something. It would be nice for you all to get the students involved in that. That's part one. And then part two of my other comment is, somebody mentioned Primex. My suggestion is, like when I was talking about the woman at the SAU down there in Pennacook, she signed on to the lawsuit in Plymouth that's in Grafton County on the school funding. It would be nice to maybe get Primex to give you a legal opinion to whether they agree with what John Tobin and Andrew Valinsky have been saying, that it's supposed to be state funded or not. Because once I win, not if and when, I put it in the same sentence. If I win my case, then when that I don't know if it just applies to me that everybody has to file an abatement application by the March 1st deadline to get their overpaid taxes back, plus interest at 6% under RSA 76:17A. That where is that money going to come from? It's going to come from, I think, the faithful performance bond that you all pay for to operate correctly. Right now you're operating unlawfully. You're a bunch of outlaws, as far as I'm concerned, because that has got to be done correctly, and if it's not, then all that money's got to be returned. And it would be nice to get Primex to maybe, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If you can get them on board, that'd be nice. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Joe.
To me? Thank you.
public comment. Please state your name and your address. The agenda item is intended to give Guilford citizens a voice and us to an opportunity to hear directly from the citizens.
Hi, my name is Sarah Olson, 33 Farmview Lane in Guilford. I'm here tonight in regards to JFABB, the International Academic and Exchange Program. I know we've tabled that to go back to policy, and I've been to the policy meetings, but through this process, but I still have concerns, and I am happy that it's going back to policy. So I just wanted to share a little bit with everyone here tonight about some background. So my family and I, we all decided to go through hosting a foreign exchange student process this year. Brief history for me, personally I started here at Guilford. I went to Guilford 92 to 96, was a part of the Spanish and German exchange programs. My family hosted 3 German students, 1 Costa Rican student, and then in return we went to their countries, got to experience a lot of different cultures, going to school, getting to know those 2 different areas of the world, which again gave my passion for traveling and getting to know other cultures. There's so much more out in this world besides the U.S. and just being able to travel. So in April of this past year, my family, we made the decision that we wanted to look into the process to host. We reached out to an agency that I found locally, Cultural Homestay International, to go through the process of becoming a host family. When we reached out to them, part of the process was just looking at, what are the policies that the school district has, and what is a process for us as a family to go through it. So some of my first conversations with the organization was looking at the school district's policy, and it was very vague for Guilford, but it looked like everything that we were doing was within policy. My family then had to go through a background check, interview with the whole family. My husband, my 2 kids got interviewed. My son's in 7th grade here at Guilford, my daughter's in 5th grade. We all completed an application, wrote about ourselves, what we thought this experience would bring to us as a family, but also to the community. We had to have, we were allowed about our town, and then they came and took pictures of our home. After all that process went through, we got approved, we then got to look at students' applications. So these applications ranged anywhere from, they were dated for us November of 2021, meaning that student had decided by that date, to the last one we looked at was given to us was a February 2022 date. So we looked through those, we officially matched up with the student, and then the information was sent to the Guilford High School principal on May 19th. Our original application was originally denied, but then within a day, thanks to a lot of people in this room, was approved for this school year. What we've learned is that we've learned a lot about just policies and gray areas and trying to make this work, but also trying not to have barriers, but try to have these experiences for our kids. In working with Cultural Homestay International, I did learn that a majority of students are matched, usually March, April, May, June timeframe. So to limit and have a policy that we talked about in the policy meeting, one was for September of this, like I would have already had to know by September 30th if I was going to host next year. And I think it's actually what's on the policy right now online. The last policy meeting we had talked about it being March 1st, which to me still doesn't give enough opportunity for families to be able to host, because it's a big commitment and a lot of times you're not sure, when you're ready to do it, and then, something just triggers and you're like, okay, I'm ready, it's go time. And for, like we said, with most of the families that we've been told, and meeting other families, a lot of them decided more later spring time frame. So I feel that in order to promote and to continue to promote and encourage this experience around cultural awareness and understanding, we should continue to allow for these experiences to district students with the least amount of barriers. We're coming off of having no foreign exchange students for the last 4 years, and I know a lot of that has to do with COVID. But already this year, Guilford was expecting to have 2 foreign exchange students for the whole school year, and 1 student has already decided to go home. I've been able to see the impact of having a foreign exchange student in our house. The French foreign exchange student who's living with us has really been welcomed into the community. It was her birthday this past Saturday, and we had over 25 students at our house Saturday night. Amazingly well-behaved high school students, I have got to say, so very proud of many parents out there. They're raising great kids in this community. It was just so amazing to watch all the kids come together for this occasion. So with that in mind, I'm just asking, try not to set barriers for these opportunities. I don't think we're gonna have a rush of millions of families wanting to do this because it is a big commitment. But I'm looking at other policies, and most have deadlines of June 1st, July 31st. The policy with Guilford was 60 days. And right now we're looking at a March 1st, so that's cutting it back many, many months. And I look at just what the student that we brought into this community so far wouldn't have been approved for this coming school year. Another possibility that is a way to try to counteract that is talking about limiting the number of exchange students in order to allow for a number of foreign exchange students to come, maybe having, I know right now the proposal is 1 per 100. That right now with our school body, that would be 5. I don't know, that seems like a lot to me. I was thinking more like 2 to 4, but I'm here to, offer any advice on, the process and just the experience that we've experienced as a family so far. So I'm asking the board and administration to really look at what timeline do you really need to approve having a foreign exchange student. Because if you think it's September of the previous year, if you really think, I couldn't do anything with even enrolling the student till July of 2022. And then when I tried to do Alma with her and do classes remotely, I was told, no, just wait till she gets here. We'll do it in August. So it's not like there was anything even within the policy that it says, you should pick your classes before you get here. I couldn't even follow any of the policy that was in there. So, it's really looking at all the different aspects and really deciding how much time do we really need and maybe setting a certain number and adding in, I know we're talking about adding in additional wording in regards to emergency situations as well. But, just really looking at a few of those things, because with the way the policy was proposed at the last policy meeting, I would have been out of policy and not being able to host this year. And I really think truly with not having an exchange student again in Guilford would have been, just a disappointment just with the experiences that I had. I know growing up, and I hope my kids, when they're in high school, will have this opportunity as well. And I'm hoping as this policy evolves, maybe even having some of the students come and talk about their experiences so far with having an exchange student, because this is the first time for any of these high schoolers to have a foreign exchange student. They have not had this opportunity because of COVID and because of everything that's happened these last 4 years. So please not limit. They've limited so many other things. We've heard about the dances and all the things they've been able to do. And this is just another aspect that creates like a different dimension and a different way of learning, and for them to understand and embrace another culture. So I appreciate you looking into those things, and it looks like I'll be joining you for some more policy meetings on Friday mornings. But I'm here to answer questions about what we've gone through, and hopefully add guidance and do the best I can with sharing what our family has experienced so far. So thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Anyone else?
Hey everyone, my name is Chris Banks. I'm active duty military. At least I will be until December 25th, December 31st, excuse me. First of all, I want to say thank you to the school board. What you guys are doing is incredible work. My desire to come back here is because of the amazing work that you're doing, and one of the main factors on why I'm trying to come back home is because of the Guilford school system. So I want to start by saying thank you. I engaged with you guys earlier through some correspondence through email, and you were also gracious to recognize my home address as 149 Watson Road, where I entered the service over 20 years ago. So one of those stipulations that you brought forward was to ensure that I establish residency in the town of Guilford before I separate, and I'm happy to present to you today a purchase and sales agreement that was just accepted this morning. So I personally want to thank you very much. I want to say thank you for your time, your patience, your understanding, and the opportunity for my daughters at both the middle school and the elementary school. You guys are doing fantastic work, and I look forward for them to pursue on in high school as well. So I don't know what the procedure is here.
Provided to Chris.
There you go. For the record, there you go.
Thank you, Chris.
Again, The big reason on me coming to here and saving it, hopefully, I don't know if anyone else is, but I wanted to save some good news for last. You guys have a lot of very tough discussions, very important discussions, and the way you carry yourselves and everything, I truly appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Hello, everyone. My name is Eric Benavides. I am a resident of Guilford, Ridgewood Ave. I would like to reiterate what the gentleman said. I appreciate all of you for being here and taking your time to do these hard conversations for the students, especially School Board Member Hogan for advocating for the transgender youth. I am a father of a freshman here at Guilford High School. I am glad that we are at least putting out forth some policy to protect our transgender youth. I am here to advocate for that. I hope it will get stronger in the future, but I'm glad there's at least some policy in place. I would like to say that while I do appreciate the gentleman's First Amendment, bringing up the First Amendment and protecting First Amendment rights, there are restrictions to the First Amendment. Obviously, teachers can't use racist comments, even though they have a First Amendment right to do so. They can't do that. I'm not saying, and I also would like to protect the teachers, because obviously accidents happen. But I feel like we could find a policy that could both protect our students and our teachers. Right now, I'm sure there's not a policy that says that you shall not hit a student, right? So if a teacher accidentally hits a student by just making a gesture, they're not fired for hitting that student, for assaulting that student. So there are policies in place that probably say you cannot hit a student. But we make policies for accidental hits. We can do the same thing with this policy. I'm sure that this board can come up with language that can satisfy both sides and protect both populations. I would hope that the students would be the priority. So again, I thank you all for giving your time, for staying here so late. I'm going to keep those comments brief because I know we all want to get home. So thank you again, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Eric.
Hi, Michelle Tyler, 34 Silver Street. Gaga Ball went up this week thanks to the PTA at the middle school, so I just wanted to say that and also the hike-a-thon's coming up, so spread the word.
Thank you, Michelle. Skip.
Just wanted to make sure everybody else got a chance first. And by the way, Principal Bolduc, I want to say that Benjamin in first grade is having a wonderful time with Mrs. A. Placement was exactly what he needed. I'm a little shaky on how all of the amendments have played out. I will have to read the rewrite of this. But I want to remind you the reason why my lawsuit was filed was because Superintendent Beitler said that the word should was mandatory, which meant it obviated my First Amendment rights. I wish to remind people that the discussion between emotional and safety and legal comes first. Each of you said, I state your name, do solemnly swear that I will bear faith and true allegiance to the United States of America and the state of New Hampshire, and will support the Constitution thereof. Doesn't mention anything about emotions, doesn't mention anything about safety. You support the constitutions of the United States and New Hampshire. Both have freedom of speech and freedom of religion as the first aspects of fencing in government, which you folks are. School board members, you are agents of the government. The constitutions are supposed to fence you in to prevent harm to us. And I want to thank Kyle for trying to keep on top of that.
clarification before I go further. So is the part that I started to ask about in the first public comment, should does not mean shall or must, but is a permissive term? Nothing in this policy, and I think this is even more important than permissive. Nothing in this policy limits the rights of individuals under the federal or state constitutions. Is that still in here somewhere?
That was voted on to move both of those sentences to section J.
Okay, thank you. And for that, I want to say thank you, because as you folks know, for 2 years, I've been advocating for constitutional values. And I appreciate that because, as I mentioned earlier at other meetings, people will change and the word definitions will change with them. So that is, I like that quite a bit. I thank you again. That actually ends the first part of my lawsuit against you folks. It took 2 years. I'm finally glad to see that that has ended. I will disagree with both Kyle and Nicole. Really, the determinant should be determined at first fertilization and first mitosis. If you're going to be exact on the biological terms, that has to happen at the chromosomal level, because that's where the sexual identities of whether you are male or female or something else, as we had talked about at the last meeting, Nicole, that's where it happens, not assigned at birth, but well before birth. So to be perfectly accurate, that is the language that ought to be put in here. Not just biological sex, because as Nicole rightly points out, there are times, very few percentage points, where it cannot be determined. Hermaphrodites, intersex, other chromosomal abnormalities can result in something you can't quite describe right. But again, it's at the very biological point of the chromosomal level where you determine that. So I would ask that you think about determination at fertilization or at the first mitosis, if you want to follow the science. Now the question I have is, I didn't see anything in here that I complained about before, which is staff having the ability to lie to parents, even though there is no state statute in this Dillon's Rule state that allows the school board or a staff member not to tell a parent what their transgender status of their child is. In B, on page 3, how will that affect any FERPA demand? Will that transgender status be hidden? Will it be stored away off-site in your information system as what was talked about for preferred pronouns and names? I know it's a rhetorical question here. I will follow up with an email, hopefully get a response back. But it is something that I would love to be able to say or see, no, we will no longer do that because we don't have the right to do that. The last thing is going to what I printed out, which is now J, now another letter, discrimination and harassment. I think I agree with Kyle that if it is used, if pronouns are used as far as in a taunting way, in a disparaging way, that would be discrimination. But right now, while you're talking about marginalizing your most vulnerable, Nicole, you're marginalizing people like me of faith. Sex and gender to me are the same thing, and that's a religious belief. I will not use any of the thousands of brand new pronouns that are coming onto the scene, including the neo-pronouns or the furry pronouns. He or she, it's a binary operation. And I am raising my son to do that as well. Will he be allowed to use a religious exemption, which you despise because you have said that? It's only a loophole to be able to discriminate. That tells me you want to marginalize people of Christian faith, Jewish faith, and Muslim faith, who only see male and female as God made them. there is a dichotomy there that I don't think you've solved yet. By allowing should in a permissive way, you will not violate the right of conscience, which is protected by the First Amendment. Again, going back to your oath of office. If you cannot live up to that oath of office, I would suggest you look in upon yourself and say, what am I supposed to do now? You cannot go by the emotional. There's no law saying that that's priority. There is discrimination, but that discrimination can work both ways. Enforcing it on one, you may discriminate on the other. I don't think that's what you want, but that's the case you've been talking about all night, and I disagree with it. Marginalization can happen to anybody, depending on who is making that determination. I applaud the policy as I understand it so far. I will need to read it as well. But I applaud the school board for saying we're protecting both sets of people. Both those who do not recognize a difference between the word sex and gender, as gender has been redefined in our common language, but also with the discrimination to say we have to protect those that are different. And when that behavior by others is taunting or openly profane, that's when I think your discrimination policies go into effect. Thank you.
Thank you, Skip. Anyone else? All right, I'm going to close public comment. We'll entertain a motion for non-public.
I make a motion to go and enter into non-public, RSA 91A:3, that II.
Roman numeral 2.
Numeral 2. I don't have my glasses on, I should know. Matters in which, if
Crop tape.